Hi everyone, welcome back to Half Bloom. I'm your host Nadia, and it's been a very, very long time since I came on to chat with you guys. I don't have the kotatsu anymore, but I'm in this little veranda area in my house where I've been filming recently. I wanted to come back here and get settled down and start talking to you guys through this podcast again because I think it's super valuable to be able to listen to someone's flow of thoughts and be able to talk about various topics that go on in our lives and not always have to package it into one. So that's kind of, I think, the direction that I want to take this podcast in. Things that I've been watching, reading, this week, the coffees that I've been drinking, and I kind of wanted to make it a little bit more casual, aka not as much of the editing, intense cuts that I do in my reels and my shorts instead. So I'm super excited to get back into talking with you guys and sharing all my insights in a longer podcast. One thing that I know a lot of people have been curious about is why would you quit your cafe? And of course, there are a lot of personal things that I won't be able to talk about currently regarding the closing, but I do think that it was a really good opportunity to be able to run a cafe and also now to be able to take some time away from it as well. There's so much that I learned from the experience, and I feel like because now I actually ran a cafe, there is a little bit more extra credibility when I'm talking about this world. Of course, I won't always know the struggles of being in the current market, but I do think that, and I hope that it will let me connect with people in the service industry and anyone working in coffee as well in the future as well. But that's kind of just the personal hope that I have. Things that I have been nervous about while running the cafe was the idea of trying to show myself as not necessarily a competitor in the industry. I wanted so badly to just show my coffee, to connect with people, and eventually be able to support those around me, aka the other coffee shops around me. But by running my own cafe, by having my own beans, I was in a position where I had to promote and compete against all these other great roastery cafes out there and coffee shop people. And I think I felt that that wasn't kind of the position that I wanted to be in. I think that of course, eventually I might open a showroom or a cafe in some sort of way, but it'll never be to take a piece of the pie. It'll be somehow to help the world around me, in the world of specialty coffee, using coffee as a connection and as a way to relax or as a way to, focus, whatever it may be. For anyone who was curious if I am planning a new cafe, I am not. Before I used to brew my coffee and then sit down with you guys, but I figured why not just brew a piece of coffee? Brew some coffee as I chat with you. Today I have this lovely blend that I got from Come to Rest. It's a cafe in Seoul that I've been wanting to go to. The two owners, I saw them at the cafe show years ago, and they left such a lovely impression on me that I saved the place on my neighbor map and decided to go back whenever I could. And the location is an hour and 40 minutes away from here, so I ordered this blend, the O Rosie blend, but the owner actually gave me an extra cup of coffee and some cheesecake, which was also incredibly delicious. So I'm gonna try to brew this now, and hopefully it'll taste as good as the owner made it. It smells so good. For those of you guys listening only to the podcast, I just made that noise and you probably didn't know what was going on, but yeah, it smells incredibly good. I'm gonna brew it or grind it with this new Time War grinder. I'm super grateful to every owner who recognizes and provides their coffee, whether it's because I get to share their coffee online to a lot of you guys and promote their brand. I don't think I've ever really felt like I deserved to receive these kinds of gifts from people. I also ran my own place, and I of course give service to other people no matter what I guess their Instagram status may be. If they like coffee, I'm gonna give them extra cups of coffee. There's so much to give, and to be able to share the coffee with other people, the stuff that I'm enjoying, I think is a privilege and an advantage that I always had while running a cafe. So no matter what the intention is of the cafe owners, I am constantly super thankful to be able to take back a sample or take an extra cup of coffee at the location and increase my exposure to different coffees in the world, and develop my palate in that way. So once again, thank you to the owner at Come to Rest for this coffee. And yes, indeed, that does mean that none of this coffee is actually sponsored. This coffee has Colombia, Ethiopia, and more Colombian coffee in it. It's a blend of three. I have been really enjoying blends that have more of like these co-fermented or anaerobic coffees. People were a little afraid to touch in the beginning, and then we kind of got really into like the strong sense of it, and then now we're using it in blends because now we want like a limited amount of that fermentation, that anaerobic, that strongness in our coffees. It's kind of like finding the balance again, and so that's why I've been really enjoying these kinds of blends. He did recommend me to drink this hot at the cafe, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I've been really out of the trend with the coffee shops out there. So a lot of people have asked me what are my favorite cafes in Seoul to go to, but I've honestly haven't been to a lot in the recent years since running my own cafe. So I've been trying to go to a certain area at least once a week to test out and taste different coffees, go to brands that I have been hearing a lot recently, and traveling a little bit more in the process. So hopefully I'll be able to have a more compiled list for you guys in the future of the cafes that I have been enjoying. But gosh, it's like so packed and saturated that there's so many good, delicious coffee shops in Korea that I didn't realize existed. Like everywhere, it's just no matter where you go, it's gonna be good. And I think there's a lot of people who are super interested in their craft, but also trying to run their own business at the same time. So it's really nice to be able to talk to a variety of people, see what their visions are in coffee, see what, I guess, business plans that they have, and also hear their opinions of coffee and their, I guess, philosophy on it. But to get a little bit more vulnerable as we're watching my coffee come down, I am currently in a place where I'm focusing on developing my thoughts again. I think the past 2 years I've kind of been scared. I've been preventing myself from being able to speak more, talk through my thoughts, and I think I've let my brain go either on autopilot or just kind of be in a state of constant survival. I want to be able to read more books because that really stimulates my brain. I completely forgot how much I loved reading, and we'll talk about that later. And also just like working on my body, feeling more comfortable with myself. So I'm excited to be able to learn more about like how to take care of my body as I'm growing older and older, because when you hit your 30s, every single part of your body starts to break down, and I'm already scared and terrified. So I realized that like this year needs to be the year I create like a good body routine for myself, whether that's skincare or exercise or like makeup, things I haven't been able to really solidify in my life, and I've kind of just been like, try this, try that. And now I think I really want to have like a particular style, like understand like when you see Nadia, that's what she wears, or like when you see Nadia, that's what she likes, and being able to like transform myself in a more, I guess, light-hearted manner instead of having to be like, oh, I hate what I look like right now. So on that same note, I decided that going to different cafes and learning about the market out there, learn more about coffee, learn more about books, learn more about the world, about the hobbies that I used to like, and be able to develop all these different values and insights so that I can then provide them back to you guys to see if there's any way that I can relay some kind of information or message that will change the way you see yourself and the world as well. Because we're all really looking for peace, and I think that's the biggest thing that I wanted at the end of 2025 is the idea of peace. I was struggling with a lot of anxiety, and I decided that at the end of it, you know what? I just need peace. That is more important than anything in the world, especially for a body that is running only on cortisol and adrenaline. Finding that inner voice within me is something that I want to work on as well. So the coffees that are in here, literally it says co-ferment strawberry, and the other Colombian is a washed rose tea. So it does have the rose and the strawberries. Like right now, as it's more hot, I do taste a little bit more of the strawberry, but I know that as it cools down, it's definitely gonna have that rose tea. I think this right now, great for the winter, but also as an iced in the summer, I think will taste super, super good. So I'm gonna keep sipping on this while we talk about something else. I don't know about you guys, but I have been super obsessed with this new drama that came out recently, and I've been constantly talking about it. It's called 이사랑 통역되나요? Which is Can This Love Be Translated? And it's like the huge hype in the K-drama right now, I think. Or maybe my algorithm has just been like completely changed to that drama. But for some people's perspectives, I do think that it could be just like another romance drama out there that doesn't mean much. But I do think that some of the conversations that are written are so well done. And as an incredibly imaginative person, as in an INFJ, I'm constantly focused on like the world and character of a situation. And so that's one thing that I really appreciated of it. And I don't want to give any spoilers while I talk about it, but the reason why I wanted to watch it so badly was because the main character guy is a interpreter, and interpretation and becoming an interpreter was actually a potential job that I was going to pursue back when I was in high school, because I had already been studying 4 languages back then. I loved cultures. I loved being able to talk to people. I loved being able to translate and interpret for people just on the streets whenever I possibly could. And that sensation of feeling proud of being able to break a barrier and just talk directly to someone is something that I will never forget in any of the experiences that I do. There are peak moments that I still remember back when I was a kid, being able to hear all these languages at once and being able to, help people out when they needed directions or looking for something in a foreign country. And also just the fact that I'm able to go to so many different countries and be able to casually speak and not worry about language barriers, especially because English is my first language. That is something that I'm super grateful also to my parents for, and also why I love languages so much. But I'm going off tangent. The reason why also I wanted to watch this was because as someone who studied languages, I don't know if other polyglots also feel this way, but at least a close friend of mine who speaks the same 4 languages as me, we both talked about how we love these languages and we want to do something with them, but there's not enough options. We don't exactly know what to do with them. And especially for me, as I've learned more languages, I realized that there's limitations to just knowing how to speak a language. Of course, you get to reach more audiences, you get to reach more opportunities. At the same time, especially with the drama as well, there's limitations because people have different languages themselves. So even if I'm speaking English and then my friend is also speaking English, they have different ways of expressing themselves. They have different, ways of acting and speaking and understanding other people because of their background, because of their, just their personality, what they're born with, their tendencies. All of that develops a person's language. And that's why I think language and culture are so intertwined, and why it's so much more difficult for us to make relationships work out. It's difficult for any one person, no matter if they're your best friend or whatever. Even if you click in so many different aspects, there are still going to be a couple things that don't match. Realizing that has made me more terrified of studying languages, because I realized that no matter how much I study, no matter how much I practice this, what's the end result? I still can't, communicate with my best friend. I still will hurt my parents, etc. I was stuck in a place where I was avoiding learning more languages and finding the fun in that because I knew the deep limitations. So I wanted to read this Substack article, journal entry thing that I wrote with you guys, because it kind of combines all of these thoughts, and I hope you enjoy it. And before I read this to you, just now my iPhone storage decided to crash on me, so my entire rest of the podcast episode flew away. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the little journal entry that I wrote on my reflections after watching this drama, and it's called The Fear and Love of Languages, of Translation, of Interpretation. I just watched Can This Love Be Translated, the Korean drama on Netflix that I needed to watch as a polyglot that loves languages. For years, I wondered several questions regarding languages. Why do I love languages? What is it about languages I love? What do languages do for me? Do I want to learn more languages or just become the best at the few that I do know? And while many explain how it's a talent to know all these languages, I still hold this fear inside of me, a fear that the main character, Mui, in the drama also has. The deeper I love, the further I'm able to fall. This deep-rooted fear, I think, is something that's prevented me from delving deeper into certain things and staying prideful, whether it was doing better and better at my job or performing well on social media. When I'm going up, I get scared of the fall. I don't know how to get rid of this fear yet, and I don't want to make that the main point of this note. But again, like the drama states, everyone has their own language. And that's so true. Language can be split into Korean, Japanese, French, Arabic, Hindu, Russian, English, etc. But it's also so different from person to person. Interpretation is therefore so incredibly difficult. Intonation, intention, fear, pride, arrogance, indifference, feelings, and tone affect the way we create relationships and also how we understand ourselves. The way we translate our feelings into words we exert from our bodies and also the actions we take, that's something that is, of course, different from the linguistic side of things, but also why I fear going deeper into languages. So I find myself at halt. I love translating, I love being able to communicate with people in their own native language, but at the same time, I worry that I cannot relay the message they want, even though I do believe that any translation or interpretation brings the original to a higher level if the translator or interpreter is devoted to the task at hand. Perhaps that's why I've been unable to commit to a single job, going from languages to coffee, which I wholeheartedly do believe that it is a language in itself with many dialects, and now unsure where my position lies. My inner voice, my subconscious language, is one that I still struggle to understand, and my body seems to still not know how to understand it and translate it into action. 언어라는 것이 멋있다고 생각을 하면서도 어떤 사람들은 언어가 달라도 통한다고 하고 그 사이에 언어는 또 근데 사용이 되고 그럼 정체성이 어디에 있는지 헷갈릴 때가 있는 것 같아요. 무의의 두려움, 스스로가 스스로를 막는 것, 호진이의 언어 능력, 하지만 언어 말고 다른 언어들이 부족하죠. 두려움에서 나오는 표현 혹은 부족한 표현, 그리고 다양하게 이해할 수 있는 언어와 통역. 너무 생각이 많아지고 너무 재밌는 것 같아요. 이런 생각을 하면서 지낼 수 있는 게 전 되게 좋아요. 最近無視した言語の世界、人と人をつなぎたくて一生懸命勉強して旅行に行くたび自分の能力を試すことができて嬉しかった。自分なりに自分をテストする同時に誇りが湧いてくるものでした。毎日その言語を使ってないけど自分の居場所、どこかにつなぐことができるだけで生きてる気がしたかもしれません。もう一度このドラマを見て言語を勉強してよかったと思いました。人生の勉強でもあったと思います。そしてまだまだ並ぶことがすごく多いと思います。Lors de mon séjour en France, j'ai appris que le temps est quelque chose que je peux maîtriser. C'est ma vie, et le temps ne me contrôle pas. Et aussi la peur. Il en va de même pour la peur. Anyway, I so dearly wanted to talk about the various facets of languages and how Mui's fear is related to languages and communication as well. So I'll be thinking through these thoughts a bit more in the next few days, maybe weeks or months. What I realized after writing this post is, which I'll have the English comments, which if you're watching through the podcast, I do have English subtitles on the YouTube. What I realized after writing this and also reading it again now is that you kind of develop a certain mindset in a particular language that you don't really get in other languages. So the kinds of thoughts and debates and dilemmas that I have in English, my brain in English, and then in Japanese and then in Korean is kind of a little bit different. So it's nice to be able to see the kind of struggles and thoughts that I have in these different languages that are in my brain, because I always tell people that you yourself, yes, you may be able to speak all these languages, but they kind of exist separately. It's kind of like mutually exclusive kind of stuff. Even if you speak English like a professional, your Korean brain will never be able to directly translate over to that college student brain. It'll always forever be that middle school brain that you have to develop over the years to then grow up and become a high schooler to become a college student. So being able to see like what thoughts I had while learning the language, the times I spent in Japan or in France being reflected in this post, I think was really interesting to see. So again, this drama isn't just a simple romance drama for me, and I hope that people can understand the depth of language in not only the linguistics like English and Japanese kind of thing, but also in the person to person, understanding how difficult it is to be able to talk with someone in a deeper level, to be able to understand someone and not have miscommunication. Even if you like each other, it's difficult for you to have a connection and understand each other. But the one thing that I did get away from this is that I need to read more. And funny enough, I actually find myself in both the characters' shoes. So I think my personality and the fears that I have is very similar to what Mui has, but at the same time, the whole like where I came from and the polyglotness is similar to Hojin. And looking at what Hojin has done to develop his polyglotness to be able to interpret is the fact that he reads a lot. And that's something that has really stimulated inside of me. He reads not only fantasy or like nonfiction, but he also does like philosophy. He knows history. He looks at brochures as well. Of course, it's to help him with his interpretation work, but also at the same time, I think it gives you a very broader scope of the culture, of the language, and in its entirety. And so super stimulated by that. My friend who also speaks the same 4 languages as me, she and I were just like, I just want to read more. Like there's so many things that I don't know about the world. Yeah, we speak these languages, but we still can't get our point across sometimes. There's so much of a bigger world out there that we still don't know. I decided that reading is going to be the first step, taking care of my body, which I'll get into deeper in a little bit. But books have literally been my savior. And this is actually the second time books have saved my life. The first time was back in 4th grade when I was in Japan for a year. I went to international school, and of course we had Japanese class. I think it was like twice a week or something like that. But during lunch, we would gather around. It was like a big circular table, and we would have our lunch, and everyone was talking in Japanese, and I didn't know a single thing back then. So I was super frustrated. My homeroom class was the class for the advanced Japanese students, and so of course I didn't belong there. So I had to stand up, walk to the end of the classroom by the door, wait for my turn, and then leave the classroom to go to another room to the beginner class. For some reason, me standing by the door was incredibly embarrassing for me, and no one was looking. No one cared about me, but just the fact that this was my classroom and I had to leave that classroom to go to another room to study because I wasn't good at this was a shock that I never experienced, especially since growing up, even in the States, we have all these tutorings, and so I never really thought that I was that behind or that lacking before. I was too prideful back then, but that made me really want to learn super fast. So I studied hiragana and katakana like crazy in 4th grade, and once I got back I started to study more. But that because of that, I started to compare myself to my peers a lot more starting then. And so once I got back to the States in 5th grade, what happens in 6th grade and in middle school in the States is that we don't have a homeroom classroom, so all the teachers have their own classrooms, and so the students actually have to go to the different classrooms. Like my history teacher will be in this room, my French teacher will be in that room, and so we had to actually like move around to the classrooms and use passing periods to go to our lockers and like take out our books, leave our books, etc. And in preparation for that, in 5th grade, English and math are separate subjects in which we had 3 different classrooms that we were split into. It was the lower level, average, and the high level classes. And so because I didn't have a record of my grades or anything in 4th grade, I actually was put in the average class, even though all of my friends were in the high level class. I was embarrassed because I felt like I deserved to be in the high class just because my friends were there and I knew I belonged there, that they were my peers back then. And so I was frustrated. I went to my 5th grade teacher, and Miss Prendage. She gave me the best advice in the entire world. I asked her, is there any way I can move up the classrooms to where my friends are? And she said, I'm sorry, Nadia, but you're stuck in this for the rest of this year. If you work really hard next year for 6th grade, I'm sure you'll be able to go to the advanced classes. But for this year, you're stuck here. And so I said, oh, is there any way, what can I do then so that I can make sure that I'm back up in the advanced level classes next year? And she said, read. Read a lot of books and don't even think about the genre. Read the nonfiction, read fantasy, read science fiction, anything to improve that will get you to a higher level. And so I took her word for it. I went to Barnes & Noble that day or that week or whatever it was, and I bought like 5 books at least a week, and I finished them. So all I remember in 5th grade was reading and then being school president. I don't know how I won school president. I don't think it was like a huge majority vote because no one really cared about what school president really meant at the time, but I was that. And I think starting in 5th grade, I realized that like reading and expressing yourself to get what you want are the 2 major things that I learned that year. So books back then had saved me to start studying for myself and learn for myself and speak for myself a lot more. Now I have reached for books again. And so the first book that I read this week while I was doing my cafe tour on Monday, so the train ride is actually like an hour and a half back and forth. And so I finished an entire book. And I think being able to go back into that flow state of reading is super, super helpful in boosting your confidence, because you're now able to say, hey, like I actually finished reading an entire book. I'm capable of doing something that normally my brain would have thought would be more difficult, especially when you're out of college for a long period of time and you're focused on only your work or your business. You are focused on that so much that you kind of don't let your brain do other cognitive functions that would actually help you in developing creativity and a broader scope of knowledge in whatever work you're actually doing. And so the book that I did read is this. It's called Be Your Future Self by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. From the synopsis, you'll feel like, oh, it's kind of just like a personal development book where it's like, oh, imagine your future self and bring that to you, and what actions can you take to be able to become your future self. But the biggest thing that I got away from this book was the idea that your future self is a completely different person to who you are currently. And so there's no need not to appreciate yourself in your current state right now, because it'll be a completely different version of you in the future. 5 years down the line will be someone so different that it doesn't matter what you currently right now are. A minute ago, you does not care about anything. Right now, it won't matter because I'll be so different then. I was a completely different person 10 years ago. I didn't have the same struggles. I didn't have the same relationships. So I can't blame 10 years ago Nadia for doing something, because I'm a different person now. And all those different experiences have created me, and I appreciate that. And so because I know that from this current self, I think it gives me a more liberating feeling to feel more confident and better about myself. And so for anyone struggling with regret, frustrations towards yourself for choices that you've made, for things that have happened to you, I highly recommend this book, because it really is a good confidence booster, but also a good way to feel a little bit more lighter about yourself and to just be a little bit more positive towards the future and be excited for the future you that you can become. So there's a little quick like book club read just now. I also wanted to really quickly just introduce the next couple books that I'm going to be reading. The first one is by Kawakami Mei. It's called Breast and Eggs. This is originally in Japanese, but I saw Le Seraphim Hoyunjin read this book, and I saw it at the bookstore while in Portugal. And so I was just like, you know what, this is going to be a fun read. It's a little sad and about women's struggles and life struggles. And also on the train, I started to reread sekai kara neko ga kieta, or in English, If Cats Disappeared from This World. It's in Japanese, and because of that and my limitations in kanji, I wasn't able to like fully delve myself into reading it. But with a couple context clues and being able to start reading in Japanese again, the flow I think has come back to me. And so this is actually a movie already. Sato Takeru is the main actor in it, and so that's another reason why I wanted to hurry up and read this so I can watch the movie, because I remember saying that like, oh, I need to read the book before I watch the movie, which I never got to even watch the movie because I never finished the book. But he's actually one of my favorite actors of all time. I started watching him in 4th grade when I was in Japan because he was Kamen Rider Deno at the time, and so my brother and I used to watch that show like religiously on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. But I go off tangent again. The story here is about a 30-year-old man who is diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he is told that he doesn't have much to live. And so when he goes home, he is greeted with a doppelganger devil or akuma demon who tells him, hey, you actually only have a day left to live. But if you decide to give up one thing in this world or erase one thing from this world, you're given 1 extra day to live. So would you like to do this? And it sounds absurd at first, but he, I think, decides to choose with the akuma what he wants to get rid of every single day. The story is incredibly well written. It's a super easy read, but it also makes you sit down and think. When I'm reading this book, I feel like everything is completely silent except for the 2 characters that are talking back and forth in this book. It's super easy to visualize for some reason, even though it seems very like slice of lifestyle. And I don't know what it is about the writing that makes me feel at peace and also very pensive at the same time. So as I'm reading, there are remarks that he makes about life that I'm just like, whoa, what if I was in that situation? Or whoa, I'm super grateful for this. Gosh, I never thought about it that way, but that's really interesting. And so I feel like the rest of this book is going to be like that. And again, as an INFJ, it's really easy for me to fall into the worlds of these books, but I think it also is what sparks the curiosity, sparks the creativity inside of me. So for anyone who is in a rut right now, I highly recommend to start reading books, because I promise you, just read one book and your life can potentially change. Especially if you're stuck. Even if you're in like a self-confidence problem, just pick up a fantasy book, because that has probably nothing to do with your ego, but because your body is struggling, it is anxious, it is nervous, it is upset, you will probably, while reading that book, try to find something, or subconsciously your brain will try to find something that will make you feel better about yourself, or give you a different perspective, give you a learning lesson through that book in some sort of way. Because authors write their books from their own life experiences, and so no doubt, they will put some kind of value or reflection into their books. And they have put in so much effort into creating a story, into writing, lessons to be able to relate to all of us. And so that's just appreciation for all writers out there. I love being able to read, and also super excited to start working on writing a little more about my thoughts and stuff. Starting with this drama. So the theme of 2026 is learning. And when we grow older, we develop skills. When we become a professional at something, we forget the glory of starting anew, of being awkward and being scared and being bad at something. But when you are more interested in learning and growing, I think you kind of don't even think about being bad at something. You're just so excited about trying something new and improving in that, and expanding yourself, that you kind of forget that that's important at all. And of course, like this book said in Be Your Future Self Now, is that since you won't even exist later down the line, why not do something that will help you in the future or make you feel happy currently? Because why not love yourself currently? And so this year I decided that as I'm struggling to figure out what kind of career I want to set for myself now, as I'm studying more and reflecting more on the stuff that I've been doing and working more on, I guess, developing ideas of business, of the world. So I want to go back to be able to use my brain more actively. As we grow older, we kind of lose opportunities to focus and study, and we lose that flexibility in our brains, the plasticity of being able to learn something new as we grow older. So trying to develop that muscle again, and also develop more bodily muscle as well. And, go back to trying to figure out what I like and who I am. I've been a very invisible person throughout my life, and I want to be able to have more presence and, maybe become a celebrity someday. I don't know why I say some of these things, but anyway, I hope you enjoy this little ramble. I'm super excited to come back and chat with you guys more about the reflections that I have. Also, since I'm going to more cafes, I don't know if you guys want me to do more cafe tours on my YouTube channel and on Instagram as well. I do think that because I did run a cafe, there is a lot more I can provide in the insights of cafe tours. But let me know if that's something that you'd want to see and what particular aspects you might want in a cafe tour video, because there's so many of those online. What kind of fresh perspective you may want from me. And also let me know what books you're reading, because I want to read more and I hope to be able to share these insights with more people. I'll leave you with those questions and one more. If there's any struggles that you've had in learning a language, what would that be? So I leave you with these 3 questions for today, and thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next week.